Alle Handys aus?
Ja. Dear guests, welcome to the and wir schon Arcade, but also we have a lot of exhibition which just opened 2 days. It's the most famous Chinese painting of the 20th century. I'm very happy here. I hope you will find once a way to here. And before beginning, let me introduce you to our project, Smart Places. Smart Places is a visionary, long-term European development project co-funded by the Creative Program of the European Culture. Digital technology and new forms of cultural mediation. In this project, we have another several activities of Smart Places. It is an online targeted European audience that consists of 8 Facebook Live, other cultural events with different events. First event hosted this year in February by Azkuna Zentroa from Bilbao in Spain. And Johanna Berg. Allow me also please to introduce you to Bettina Prendergast, Prendergast first went after her schools, she went to the States to improve and knowledge. In 1990, and she became radio and Austrian television in Vorarlberg in Vienna. Was concentrating in economy, and 2003 she moved to Liechtenstein Radio, and she was specialized to give information about news from abroad. 11 office of Ireland. Brexit and her 2 children gave her the decision to move with her back to Austria, to her home republic, to Vorarlberg, and since September 2017 she again in the Austrian division. And now I will give the word to Bettina. Very glad that you are here and will do the moderating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rainer. Thank you very much for your welcome words. For watching us, for tuning on Facebook Live here in the National Museum of Liechtenstein. A museum is often described as a place that, isn't it? Over the decades, people meet, not just dusty halls where things are kept under lock and wrap, but it's also a place where people can enjoy, with all senses, art, performance, music, exhibitions, where anything really. And that's what we want to discuss tonight. And I'm very pleased to introduce our panel guests. Thank you for coming on. Rainer Vollkommer, you've already introduced yourself a bit, but you are much more than just the director of the National Museum of Liechtenstein. You studied archaeology, you studied art history, primeval history, and ancient history, so you really know your stuff. And it's been a lifelong passion of you to bring museums to life. We have Georg Rootering here as well. Very welcome to you. You are a director and a producer from Germany, and you're well known in theatre circles. You worked in Athens, in Graz, in Helsinki, in Tallinn, Vienna, Berlin, and many. For example, Rigolette, Aida as well, and also a very successful musician is here tonight. I'm very pleased to welcome you, Fjodor Elesin. You are from Russia. You've won numerous awards in various music competitions. Again, I'm not going to name them all, but a few. For example, the International Music Competition Classica Nova at the International Festival 2000, and for Fief's award. I got it right this time, didn't I? Right. So that is fantastic. And we also have two audience members here. It's Leonie Hirn and Kelvin Mechura from Austria, from Vorarlberg, my home region. Very welcome to you as well. You're gallery, you're very young, you're students, 20 years old, fantastic. You're history of art students, and you're here to ask panel members questions. Rainer, let's start with you, as you being the house host this evening. You've organized more than 150 exhibitions about art, history, archaeology, environment, nature in the museums that you've worked in the past. And in Liechtenstein, you're well known for bringing people together here in this museum. It's a small place, though. How do you do it?
Yeah, I think, yes, I had the chance to be in several places, also in different museums. And one of the first things I was doing was I was working also for a project to UNESCO, where it was very important to bring in the 80s, where the world was divided up into two big parts, Western and Eastern, developed and undeveloped countries, to put them together. And there I learned a lot of things about relationship. And when I went to museums, I thought it's a very important thing that museums nowadays, society was changing, and they were coming more and more to the digital way, that a museum is more than, as you told, a dusty place where there are only old, very famous things, but also to make events, to make it more. And I think that's a very important thing, and it's getting more and more. Builds the mind and to see more things museum in a completely new way.
More difficult or easier to get people here? Small around the world, obviously. I mean, even some people don't even know where Liechtenstein is. I have to say. Small place.
It's in bigger. It's not important to have a big number. For me, it's important to have the ability to it's with new people. I mean, this dialogue, and that's something I like very much, and I think that's very important.
But I think we have to add here that you are a fantastic networker. You know so many people. In Paris, you studied in London, you know, or in Oxford, sorry.
In Oxford,
I mean, so you just know so many people as well.
Like always in life. But it's also one of like it, and sure, thanks to my studies already, especially to show what's in a lot of different universities and museums. I think networking sure was very important, and it's always important.
And through networking, of course, you also met Georg Rootering, who's here tonight. And Georg, what tempted you to work together with the Liechtenstein National Museum? Because you've done some theatre productions here as well, smaller ones, although not. Maybe you can explain a bit more to our audience here what you actually did in the museum.
I was running the theater here in Liechtenstein, and we created in the theater Greek Asian drama, more pieces, some pieces,
like a cycle,
a cycle. And then it happened about 10 years ago. There was a big foundation. It was the Alexander S. Onassis Benefit Foundation. And the gentleman responsible for this foundation, he asked me if we could collaborate in some for a new project. And then I suggested, since I saw the museums here and also this combination of, let's say, modern art in a special place, I suggested to create something based on Odyssey. It was also clear in this combination to go one step more, not to use as a theater, that would be represent a special installation, and that was a specific point.
So you had no stage as such?
Started installation, and it was for this. And also the audience, it was clear that we will not handle the audience as it is usually in a theater. I wanted that they all involved and that the actors are, let's say, working on the art which is presented.
Close. Nerve-wracking for actors because they used to be on stage even a little bit higher up. You've got the audience there, there's a safe distance, you know, and now they can almost. Did they react? Were they right up for it, or do you have to
everybody of us, and is possible. And also if you create music or, but it was clear, they were really designed, very close in front of them, but also the fact music also, because I was always eager to choose a specific and architecture. And it must be also, it's a very interesting or very important point. Not by accident or something. We themes which were especially made or searched for this exhibition where we are.
So you can't really just play and actually plant it in an artificial thing. It has to be live and breathe within these walls.
For example, through this work, we came also in contact with Sammlungen in Munich. Asian Greek. It was made that described. I was in Switzerland. Was in contact, and so. Museum, I created by Georg, and also the idea behind is of the effect of theatrical aspect science. So I invited for every project I invited specialists from, let's say, from Asian Greek theater scene, or in the case of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, we worked together with, very close together with somebody from the University of Zurich, who is a specialist.
When you did your theatre here in the Liechtenstein National Museum, how did the audience react?
They were excited because it was a especially because all the projects, they were created in this way. For example, here, when we in this in your museum was an exhibition about Troja. Yeah. Also, the opportunity to see these and to sit in this house and to see a theater play which is written in the time where the art pieces were created.
Exactly, yeah.
Was a very special and very.
And Fjodor Elesin, all musical events you've performed here as well, if I'm not mistaken. No. York, in Berlin, St. Martin's in the Fields in London. But not so good in English, but translate.
Ich brauche viel Zeit für Cello. Und daher habe ich auch nie so viel Zeit für die Sprachen.
It needs a lot. Perfectly already, so that's fine.
Ich danke nochmal für die Frage. Warum Musik? Ich muss, glaube ich, damit beginnen, zu sagen, dass mein Vater in Ermitage alles Restaurant Winterpalais spielen durfte.
He's allowed to play cello in every room. How?
Das schon mit begonnen.
Actually been in museum since he's 4 years old.
Na gut, jetzt Spaß bei der Seite.
Now to the serious bit.
Ich hatte Museum Kunst und Gewerbe mal gemacht im Stahl, das ist in Hamburg ein Museum. In ihren Ausstellungen Ideen geben, was man musikalisch umsetzen kann.
Well, he's performed in various museums already, one in St. Petersburg, one in Hamburg, and it's actually quite easy to do that because the museums already have like the topic where, you know, they've got exhibitions and you could actually create the perfect music to that. So you try to marry up those two, you know, the exhibition with the music for it. Is that right?
El Prado in Madrid.
Well, for example, El Prado in Madrid, yeah.
Da hat man schöne Bilder. Und es gibt vom Raum verschiedene Exhibitionen. Wir haben beispielsweise Mussorgsky mit dem und dann anhand dieser Bilder Musik entsteht. Und die zusammen mit Musik, als man eigentlich denkt.
Well, art history and ethnographic are much closer to music than you actually would think. So he just named actually perform different music there. Is that right?
Wenn man beispielsweise ethnografische Museen nimmt, Volkskunst, da sind ja natürlich die Ornamente eines Volkes Musiken anschauen, von den deutschen Komponisten, von den russischen Komponisten, von britischen Komponisten, auch immer Charakter in sich. Die sie komponieren.
Well, if you look at different tribes, right, works, you also get like the fabric of the music, which is actually weaved into the culture of these people.
Etwas anderes bekommen.
And the audience in the museum is always slightly between.
Gemerkt, dass Sie das sehr oft natürlich das Publikum jetzt nicht beleidigen, aber dennoch das Thema ganz klar ansprechen. Leute, die zu einem Konzerthall gehen dahin aus Gewohnheit.
Okay, well, he doesn't want to insult, but people who go to a concert hall or to a music concert, they go there because for them it's actually nearly a habit.
Ich mache mal einen Witz, die
well, he's making a joke now.
Im Jahr immer demselben Fehler ein Abo zu kaufen.
Well, I make the mistake once a year to actually buy
Wenn die Abo-Serie gut ist, dann freuen Sie sich
the wrong, what's the abo? What's that in English? Oh, help me out here.
I think a ticket for one.
A season ticket, yeah. So they make the mistake to always buy the same.
Im Museum hat man ein ganz spontanes Publikum.
Well, however, in the museum, you've got a very spontaneous audience because they just come in and, tonight, I'm intrigued to find out what this is about.
Daher gibt es beim Museum, es ist auf irgendwie, sagen wir mal, auf Zeppelin fixiert, auf dem Bodensee.
Okay. Well, a different museum specializes in art history.
Im Museum geben uns die eigentlich die Ideen vor, was wir dort machen, und haben natürlich eben schaffen diese Kulisse.
Well, the museums actually create the stage for him and his music because they already have a theme, and he creates the music to that theme which you already find in a museum.
Ich würde dann beispielsweise 2 Namen nennen von Impressionisten, wenn man Debussy nimmt.
For example, if you take Debussy, an impressionist.
Und dann würde man aber in der Malerei Impressionisten nehmen und dann würde man das nebeneinander stellen. Sehr oft gibt es Musiker, die berühmte Monet oder so draufnehmen auf CD und dann auf der CD, sagen wir, Debussy spielen. Oder Ravel.
Yeah, so you got famous impressionists and they then use Debussy or Ravel because it matches the art basically.
Wissen, dass wir im Museum Bilder anschauen, dass wir uns auf
God. It does actually something happens inside you. Well, you look at this piece. But one thing I was wondering about acoustics, because it's so important to good acoustics. And if you perform in a concert, you've got that. But is every museum suitable for that? Can you really do anything in a museum? Certainly not.
Man kann mit Akustikum
You can do a lot with it. Influence it, you mean?
Du
Okay,
hast
yeah.
in dem Sinne keine Bühne, manchmal.
Well, you've got no stage
Du kannst die
sometimes.
Leute drumherum setzen
You
lassen
place the people around it,
oder mittendrin und die
or
Musiker
within,
drumherum.
or the musicians around. Fantastic.
Ich hatte mal ein Konzert im Architektenmuseum in Petersburg gemacht.
Oh, once I did a concert in the Architecture Museum in Petersburg.
Hatten einen Balkon.
They had a balcony, yeah.
Da drum
And he placed the orchestra and the musician around it.
den Klienten unten.
The conductor actually,
Damit sie auf ihn schauen. Alles
they could actually, the musicians down to the conductor.
und die
They've been, they literally got the sound from everywhere, like bombarded with sound. And I think it was the shape of a flower, wasn't it? Was that the one? Was it the shape of Blumenform? Yeah.
auch gemacht.
Fantastic.
Ich erzähle gleich, aber ich habe wirklich mit Erstaunen gemerkt, dass wenn der Dirigent, sagen wir mal, zum Bläsern etwas schaut, dann das ganze Publikum aufgeregt in die Bläser.
Yeah, well, the audience obviously followed the conductor's eyes as well. So if he looked up to the guys with the trumpets, for example, the whole audience would follow him as well.
Publikumsgäste haben mir erzählt, als würde man zu einem Tango-Workshop gehen, ohne Tango zu können, aber hat das Gefühl, man macht das Tango mit Tanzen.
Well, and the audience members described it as actually going to a tango lesson without actually dancing the tango and without actually knowing how to dance the tango, but yet actually doing it. So that's a very, very good example.
Das, was Sie angesprochen hatten, das hatten wir auch wirklich mit der Blume gemacht, als wir zwischen den Orchesterreihen Publikumsgäste reingesetzt haben. Das erste. Und dann gibt es Zuhörer. Zweiter Geigen, da gibt es Zuhörer und so weiter. Und so entsteht eine Blume daraus. Das Publikum erfährt diese Musik ganz anderes. Es geht da gar nicht mehr darum, wie klingt das im Saal, sondern es geht vielmehr darum, was eigentlich in einem Orchester, wenn ich
Well, it's actually not so much then how does it sound in a music hall. It's more like how does it sound if you're actually sitting inside the orchestra. And that's what you did with the flower shape. So you one row of musicians, one row of the audience, and so on. So you had this flower shape. Found themselves right in the middle of it, which is a totally different experience, obviously. Very, very clever.
Jetzt
Beautiful.
können Sie sich vorstellen, wenn so wie wir gerade sitzen, da würde beispielsweise sitze ich und da sitzt eben die zweite Geige, die gerade beim Brahms 4. Sinfonie ist. Mit voller Temperament, mit allem drum und dran, dann ist man als Zuhörer ganz anders.
Yeah, well, obviously it's a totally different experience. And you really a smaller venue, and it's something you would like to do in the future as well.
Kleine Hallen, so wie hier im Landesmuseum Liechtenstein, und ich bin sehr glücklich, dass ich das machen durfte.
He's very happy that he was able to perform here.
Und auch
Mainly the audience, you're really, really close to them. It's a very intimate setting, and obviously that's very. Just checking here on Facebook. Sorry?
I also wanted to say, in our first project, which we in einem Stationentheater.
Well, yeah, it's
different places.
Different places and different venues.
The idea was also to give the audience the possibility. And here we have 4 or 5 floors. So we're walking through each the place over there, and this happened with an excellent actress, and so the audience had also this. It's in a way very similar to this what you described it, the surrounding, standing on the top, and so the audience had the possibility to see the whole museum.
Mm-hmm. And you, but one room to the other. How did you organize that? Because obviously, I think people would discuss on Facebook. Theatre mute. Right, sorry, carry on.
Yes, it is, of course, but therefore also it functioned very excellent, I have to say, because it was the point of that also the actors can lead the audience together also with the fact music, but not only music to have something like as we have it in other places or as background music. That no, it was everything was combined. It belonged to the conception of the evening, and yeah, I think we handled it very easily.
Very easy. It was really visit and once well, it was a question about this after this. So the very happened
especially that London. It tells about the story of this country and how everything started in the story of this country here and from the people. And of course, also the texts we choose. It was Greek Asian texts combined, example, and it describes always. It's a little bit also paintings. From so deep inside and very good.
Reminder to all got lots of people. If you have a post, I was please do put questions. I am able to read them from the screen. Ask our panel members. Back to you. There is always discussion about how much should you offer that is not actually museum work. You know what I mean? Like the traditional way of what a museum should actually present to the public. How much should it become a concert venue, a theatre venue, you know? They say no, a museum should be a museum, otherwise I'll go to the theatre, I'll go to your music hall. What do you make of those critical voices?
First, I think just what we heard shows that we are not a theatre, but it's way. Therefore, it's very important. It's true. It's not compared to a famous concert house with best acoustics or a theater house which has all the sceneries and everything. But it's another attitude to it, and I think it's very important. But we have events been about perhaps 15 to 20 concerts, and we regularly each year days. So, but we do it regularly. I think that's the other point. We have to do it regularly, and to put it of other things, and then I think it's very fine.
Huh? Have you found the right mix yet, or are you still experimenting about what
we are always from but this was very interesting because rappers are certain telling stories of society at the moment, and he rapped Homer, the Trojan War, and so also here he very interesting for everybody. So we are also experimenting. We are a place of discussion, a place of meeting, and we have to have what in our society.
We've got a comment online. One and bringing all art forms and that there that you transforming a museum into something a bit more lively, not just keeping it as a treasure box, really. It's something that people want.
And then you discover the same thing. As you told, if it's suddenly you see a painting, you hear the music of the time, and with it some same feeling, but together by seeing and hearing. suddenly and the objects are different. So I think that's really something which is very interesting. Same for a lot of events.
Idea. It goes before here from the Chinese artists. So what I'm working out is not yet on these pieces, but I take this now as an example, and also our audience can see the drawings. But imagine if we do not have an idea exactly about what the myth or what is the sense of this certain drawing for behind you now, and so it would be fantastic if you see this painting or the drawing or whatever. But let's stay with the drawing. If you see it, if you hear, let's say the myth text inspired the painter to paint this specific picture. This idea, for example, for special paintings, they are on the Ovid. It's so dramatic, and then if you put this combination, then of course also with the question of the music could be very modern, or you go if that Ovid probably was one of the key Renaissance art combined, with the idea style and so on, and then to the Renaissance pictures. Or so if you make a project to combine all three texts together.
Yeah.
Museum, jede Art, eine Plattform, die viel Entfaltung.
Well, generally speaking, give us a platform, develop.
Gewohnheiten 45, also 45.
The interval, got another 45 minutes.
Hier in Liechtenstein hatte ich angeregt auch mit
worried about it, but we did have Gespräche. Can we just say that?
Small talk concerts.
Small talk concerts, right? But I think you have to explain that a bit deeper to our audience. Small talk concerts.
Ja, die Idee ist ganz einfach. Man gibt Freizeit und die Gestaltung überlässt man vollkommen dem Musiker. Wir haben gemerkt, es gibt gar keine Pausen.
Okay, well, so there's free time and the musician just
auch einen Akkordeonisten aus Berliner Oper.
So the musician playing his music and then what happened?
Der auch improvisiert hat, das war aber eher eine Ausnahme. Seinem Instrument macht.
Oh, also explain what he's actually doing the instrument. That must be interesting.
Leute nur denken, dass sie wissen, worum es geht.
Okay, sometimes people just think they know why it works.
Yeah? Genau, aber es ist besser und man spricht auch, ich habe bei Kollegen, bei allen gemerkt, mit viel Respekt zum Publikum.
Yeah.
Eigentlich wissen wir ja, dass sie das wissen, aber wir sagen, damit wir das nochmal für uns
play so they actually remember how to do it. Is
so,
that right?
Und wenn man dann ein wie Lynn Harrell aus den USA, hat der erzählt über das Cello, was ist das?
How does it work? Come from? That's like a music as well, not just.
Ja, es ist fast.
Yeah.
Die kommen schon mit einem ganz klaren Programm, haben dann 2, 3 Stücke, die sie vorbereitet
They've
haben.
got a clear program, 2, 3 pieces that they play, perform.
Und ich habe sehr oft gemerkt, die gehen weiter darüber hinaus.
And then they go actually much further than that.
Und weil sie nämlich mit dem Publikum
And
sprechen,
because they're interacting with the
wissen
audience.
Sie, was dann passiert?
What
Dann
happens
spricht
then?
das Publikum in denen auch.
Oh, and then the audience, obviously. That's all what we want, isn't it?
Darf ich eine Frage stellen?
And the audience goes, can I have a question? Yeah.
Und
That's
das macht ja
interesting.
diese fast familiäre Situation.
So you get a very intimate environment, a very
Wir haben auch wirklich viel Vertrauen gehabt in diese Geschichte, weil die ist nicht, sagen wir, ganz klassisch.
okay.
Auf der anderen Seite ist beispielsweise, wenn wir das Theater ansprechen und eben die Musik, wir haben sehr oft, dass wir uns auch zusammen,
Well, theatre music often meets.
wenn wir an die Oper denken,
The opera, for example.
aber das dramatische Theater, das heißt das Gesprochene,
Dramatic theatre, spoken
Gesungene,
theatre.
Eigen.
Together, there's a bit of a problem where to meet up. We agree on that, Georg?
What you said, because you know, I made my whole life I was working in opera. Since I made the cycle in our theater here in Liechtenstein, happened, I completely changed inside because they taught you, Euripides forces you, you cannot realize this piece if you don't have a clear idea of rhythm, music, word, and dance. If these are not together, and of course, also whatever that means. When I realized, of course, in each piece you will find 2 great actors and they will interpret, let's say, a scene between 2 people, fantastic. If you have only this, and that was the point, what I saw very often also in other productions, it's not important in Germany or somewhere else. If you have only this fact, and if you lose one of the other facts, then the piece itself is losing something. And that goes exactly together with that what you described before. So where meets music and word?
aber nochmal auch auf die Museen und die Akustik für Sprechen und Akustik
Actually talking for performing,
nicht
playing.
vertragen.
Yeah.
Along. They don't.
Weil wenn
it's
ein
different.
Schauspieler in einem großen Film ist,
Yeah.
dann sagt er, das ist hier für eine Suppe. Ja, also das heißt, es ist zu hallig.
Okay.
Eigentlich
For to being a big concert, it's too echoey, obviously. Yeah?
Wenn ein Streicher Lichtwachsaal kommt,
But if
so,
this is coming into
ja,
coming to a smaller stage,
entweder erschießt er sich oder
it actually shoots himself.
man hört alle.
Yeah,
Alles.
literally everything. I'd like to bring out to
Aber
members of the
noch-
audience in
Nochmal
Yeah.
auf den Punkt zu kommen, helfen ja die Museen. Museen haben da kann man wunderbar
Okay, so museums are
wirklich oder die Musik anzuschauen. Sondern man kann
that'd be very creative. That big theatre is all to the discussion a little bit. What would you like to see, hear, and feel when you go to a museum? You have to, as a visitor, yeah, as a person. Yeah, yes, exactly. In any aspect, really. If you like, hear anything.
Say if I am current example, I something where I say, oh, for instance, a few days ago we were here there. Introduction. I talked with my girlfriend Leonie and I said, wow, I didn't know that. Now I see things totally different than before, though we parts. So learn something. And maybe also the aha effect. Oh, okay, I know that before. Or something that satisfies my eye. I see something and I say, wow, great. There's not needed a aspect of, okay, I learned something. My eye to look at something and be happy. For instance, start thinking of something.
Leo, how about you? When you go to, is that when you think of a museum, do you performances? So still, you do a lot. Let's go to a museum. So that's not in your head. No. But you've done it. Yeah. Have you been to a museum?
It was the German pavilion, and we came in, and it was normal, and the door had closed, and suddenly to say 5 years old.
Oh,
okay.
Clearly still in your mind. Wow, yeah. Okay.
It depends on culture. For example, when I'm in a little village somewhere in the area, but if they have a little museum, they will have also
Yeah.
What's very rare ones, not kind of mentality, but it's. And I think this will be to combine things and to learn in this way about everything a little bit, and these experiments you told, which are really fantastic for everybody, and also for the audience to be so close to you. It's another kind of feeling.
We've got a question here online. The intercultural dialogue and interaction that in all art forms is one of the features of post-globalization culture and art. How do the participants see this interaction? How do you see this interaction of all art forms coming together?
I think it's discussed, but the discussion is very important. If you discuss it, they are not. It's also important to have a discussion about it.
let's go back about 100 to 150 years. If you think about Claude Debussy, for example, and the circle in Paris at that time, everything was in a way combined. So the painters, this community of Paris at this time, so the writers, the musicians, they were always together. I'm sure that I don't have La Mer about the paintings of or
erwähnen, wie, weil es ja sowieso ein der eigentlich Alkohol
Describe them as a club of the anonymous alcoholics.
Wer hat inspiriert?
Who
Weil sie
inspired?
natürlich
Woody Allen made a movie some years ago about this fact, especially about 100 years, 1910 or something like this, when they were people, when you had the possibility to meet these and these and these people until to the fashion. What I want to say is also what you have said before. So everything it belongs together. So it should not be separated, hand in hand, or as it is also nature.
It's actually one big melting pot. Well, you said, you know.
Always and everywhere the same. I mean, of course, you need also and you need the theater, of course, because there are different chapters to realize, and which is very important. Doing this here, we meet. It's so that is already enough. If you and also with the of the music and so on.
ist das auch eine Stadt an sich,
Ja.
wie beispielsweise Paris oder Petersburg. Oder
Well, for example,
in
Paris, they
schon
need
ein
us
in Hamburg eine Konzert.
Hamburg with over 100 performances.
Die hier haben wir mit Architekten zusammen gemacht.
And we even have music.
Bauten
Or in converted factories
die als Education gemacht werden
and use the
und
locations.
probiert eben aus, Architektur und die Zeiten eben.
You were a child and your father was working for the International.
Yeah.
One of the most innovative movies in the last years I know is made, sorry, I don't know his name. Combined this fact of visiting Hermitage, visiting a museum, it's time. This movie, and they are walking, and suddenly you see, let's say, of people 200 years ago. Hermitage is 300 years old, or some a little bit younger. The history of Russia and some. This was a time. which is very exciting in this movie.
We could talk about probably all network museums and how they can bring people in these walls and here, of course, but unfortunately, nearly finished here. I've got information about hosted by European Time. It will be presented by Tanya Rama and John Collingswood from Tiger Box. Well, from here at the National Museum in Liechtenstein, we send our best wishes. Stay informed about arts, stay interested in arts, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.